Just a great weekend to be a race fan, and we are truly honored. On the Revved Up Sports Show hotline, we have the leader of the Alabama gang, Hall of Famer, NASCAR champion, the one and only Mr. Bobby Allison. Bobby, how are you this evening, sir?
I'm doing really good. How about you guys?
Well, it's getting a little cool on us here.
Yeah, a little chilly, but we'll make it work.
Yeah, crazy Texas weather around here. We never know.
Yeah, well, it is in the end of January, beginning of February.
Yeah.
Outside.
Yes, sir.
Wintertime has been pretty easy on us this year so far.
Yeah, it's crazy here, Bobby. We were on Saturday. It was 91 degrees here in Austin.
Oh.
We're just north of Austin, and right now we're sitting I think it was 40 today, and it's going to rain all day tomorrow. But again, we can talk weather another time. But Bobby, again, thank you so much for being a part of our program. It is truly an honor to speak with just a great racing legend, and we will both admit we're huge fans. So thank you so much. But
that's so neat. I've had a really good career, and a lot of neat things have happened, and so we can talk about whatever.
All right. That's super awesome.
So we'll start out with the obvious question. What was your take on this year's Daytona 500? A lot of us actually really liked it, but for somebody that's been a racer there and been a car owner there, was it too much carnage for you, or was it just about right?
Well, it was really a good show. After a few years of the shows being pretty poor, it was a pretty good show, I thought. They probably still could do a little bit something to give the cars a little bit more personality like they used to have, but the racing was good, and the crashes were incredible. Anybody that's interested in that part of it at all, they got their full dollars worth on that deal.
and isn't it crazy, Bobby? As long as Bobby and I, the Bobby here with me, is we've been race fans just for so long, but I don't appreciate the crashes so much. I've been a racer. We both have, and that's when you're a short track racer, sometimes you don't like seeing those. You got to fix that mess.
Yeah, for sure. And through my career, I hated the crashing on the big track, but I certainly was involved in some of it, some pretty spectacular stuff, and of course that draws that extra attention, and so you look at it from the standpoint that it's such a great draw for the fans of the sport. You go ahead and accept it, and the crashing also shows that the guy behind the wheel is pretty committed too. He's going to go as hard as he can, and if you're going really hard and something goes wrong, sometimes it's really difficult to get out of trouble.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. So we hear a lot of stuff about a lot of the older timers. Not calling you old by no means, legend, yes indeed, but a lot of the older fans that Rodney and I encounter, they always talk about they want to see racing like they did back in the old days. Back when there was two cars on a lead lap at the end of the 600, or even when one car may be on the only lap by itself. From somebody that did it back then, is it better now, or do you think it was better back then?
Well, I really liked it back then. Sometimes I was that one car that was all by myself out front. That was pretty neat place to be.
Absolutely.
But back then the cars did have a little personality too. And so the Chevys worked good here, and the Fords worked good there, and the Dodges and Plymouth worked good some other place, and that old AMC Matador even worked pretty good in a few places.
You read my mind. I was going there. The first time I saw that was at Texas World Speedway. I got to see that car. I think it was probably in a USAC stock car race. Talk a little bit about that car. You went out on a limb, and I think some folks were thinking, what is this Allison guy thinking? But, man, that was one fine mobile right there.
It really was. well, I really didn't go out on a limb like you would think to begin with.
Yeah.
I was trying to race my Chevys and going through a period of time when the rules kept changing weekly, and I was kind of out of funds and really struggling along. And I knew of the Matador. Roger Penske had that thing built, and they had Gary Bittenhouse in it. And I saw that the car went fast, but it was pretty unreliable, and it wasn't an engine problem. It was something else on the chassis or the makeup that wasn't done as good as it needed to be for NASCAR, for NASCAR racing. And so Gary Bettenhausen crashed his sprint car and got hurt. And so Mark Donnie was still alive. And I had done a couple things with Mark and had a pretty neat relationship with him. He was really an incredible guy. And called me up and he said, "Bobby, I need you to run the car 4th of July at Daytona." And I said, "Well, I've got Coke as a sponsor. It has to have Coke on it." And he said, "Okay, we'll put a Coke patch on the hood and a Coca-Cola script on both rear quarters." The rear quarters were red, and so the white Coca-Cola script on that would look good, and a Coke patch on the hood looked good, and that satisfied the Coke folks. And I told them, I said, "I've got to work on the chassis, just because I needed to see if I can help the car be a little bit better than it's been." And so I said, Mark said, "You can go to Redding and do whatever you want to do on the chassis. You just can't do anything to the engine. The engine is Traco's." And Traco said, "You're not allowed to touch the engine." And I
famous
thought,
last words.
"Oh well," but it went ahead and readjusted the chassis a little bit. I had to make a couple of little mechanical changes to the chassis. They had the rear suspension was kind of backwards to what NASCAR stuff had been, and so turned that around, and then I did the bumps here on the front end, and I was pretty into that at the time. I discovered how much that would help the Chevy or the Ford or the Chrysler that I had run, so did the bumps there. Took that thing to Daytona, unloaded it, practiced. When I turned practice, had fast time practicing. And every practice I had fast time. And I was going to be on the pole with that thing first time out. And they had a pretty full field qualified, and I had fast time, and it rained. And so I said, "Well, 3 cars are left, and we'll let them qualify at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning." And one of those 3 cars was David Pearson and Wood Brothers Mercury. And the track had to be 15 miles an hour faster at 7 o'clock in the morning than it was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Of course.
July I guess it was July 2nd. So I ended up on the outside pole, but the car really performed good. There's a funny little thing, I always paid attention to the little details that meant something to me. And they put a strange lap money thing up for that race. The first time they ever had big chunks of lap money on specific laps. And so I made a list of the laps and how much they paid and taped that list on the dashboard of that Matador. They dropped that green, and I got into the lead, and I led every lap that paid.
Love it.
and I got a kick out of that because the thing, it dropped the cylinder right near the end of the race, which is what it would normally do, and I ended up third, dropping back to third right there at the end, but I won so much of the lap money that I won almost as much as David Pearson did winning the race.
Yeah, get that old silver fox.
So I thought that part was pretty neat. And I liked the car. The car looked good to me.
Mm-hmm.
It drove good. The engine ran good. It just, and every race that we ran 10 races. I would lead the race. I led every race that we ran in the car. Lead the race, and 10 or 15 laps to go, the thing would go on 7 cylinders. And, I kept saying to Roger, why don't they fix it? Well, Traco does the engines, and you're not allowed to even say anything.
Oh, man.
So,
well.
So anyway, we ran the next to last race at Rockingham, and same thing. I led the race, but then the thing went on 7 cylinders, and I didn't get to win. And Mark said, "Well, will you run the car for us next year?" And I said, "Not unless I can look at the engine."
There we go.
So I said, "Okay, you can go to Traco and look at the engine before Riverside." Or actually before Ontario. Ontario was the last race.
Yeah.
So they're out there in California.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. So I went and I looked, and I immediately saw the problem. They were running an aftermarket rock arm that was really a bad piece.
Mm-hmm.
Had a really bad reputation in street rods and drag racing and round track racing and everything.
Yeah.
And so I said, we need to change these rock arms. And the head guy at Traco said, we bought a case of them other things, and we're using them till they're used up. And I said, no, we're not.
That's right.
So while I was in the engine, I noticed that they had roller tappets, which were illegal at the time, were illegal in NASCAR. But they've been running them all year long. They were so nicely done that they had gotten by inspection every race with the roller tappets in there. And ironically, the week before, I had seen the intake manifold off of a competitor Chevrolet, and it happened to be one of the guys that I didn't care much for, and it had visible roller tappets. And I said something to Joe Gasaway, who hated me anyway. And I said, Joe, that's roller tappets are illegal. He says, get out of here or I'm fining you. So I got out of there, and I thought, well, he hadn't seen those things at Matador yet, and so I'll just leave those things in there and go ahead and run them. So we ran them. We won. Didn't break a rock arm. Won the race at Ontario. And then Traco told NASCAR to look at the tappet.
Oh.
They were mad at me for interfering with the rest of the setup on the thing. Anyway,
that's of a deal. Jeez.
Yeah. I didn't know this went on, so they took me up to the press box to do the post-race press conference, and a little celebration up there for winning the race. And I got an airliner and headed home. And I changed planes to Atlanta. I flew from California to Atlanta and then back to Birmingham from Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. And
got off the plane at 6 a.m. Monday morning in Atlanta, and here's Atlanta newspaper in a newspaper rack. Allison fined $9,100. And I said, wow, that guy's got the same name as me. I better find out what this is all about. So I put my quarter in the machine, got me a paper, and it was me.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, Bobby, speaking of fine, and I'm sorry to interrupt you because I know I'll forget this, but you said fine. You got fined for the 79 500, didn't you? After all that mess.
Oh yeah, they fined us $6,000 a piece for that deal, and used the money to make commercials that they still use.
Yeah,
that's true.
A lot of shots of that thing this past weekend.
I did too. I did too.
And we never got a royalty. I never got my money back. Now Donnie got a refund of some of his money, and I guess Cale got all of his back because he didn't say a word about it. I never got a dime of my money back, and $6,000 was a lot of money.
Absolutely.
For me back in those days, and they still owe me.
Yeah, they do.
But I bet you don't.
If I could get them to pay me a royalty and a commission right now, I'd probably be okay, wouldn't I?
Yes, sir, you would. Because I watched The Perfect Storm again for the 25,000th time the other day, and it was full of that.
Yeah.
But I bet you don't regret it at all, right? Like getting out of there and going down after that. I bet you really don't have any regrets after all these years going down there and getting into the ruckus down there on the backstretch, do you?
I do not have any regrets at all. Just, we gave our heart and soul, and the fans loved it, and and we did profit.
Sure.
We ran good enough time and time again that we were able to earn a good wage out of the thing, and I got to win several of those major races, and
absolutely
a few of the shorter races too. But the major speedways paid good purses, and I got to get in on that, and
yes, sir.
I had to really like that.
Yes, sir.
So before we get to some of your super speedway stuff, over the summer we had a gentleman by the name of Freddie Fryer on this show, and we asked him a couple of questions about his short track days and all of that. One of the interesting questions we asked him was who was his most fierce competitor through all that time, and his answer was you and your brother. He says the Allisons were the toughest competitors I have. Talk about those nights racing against Freddie Fryer all across the country.
Yeah, we'll see. Donnie and I had really good short track cars. We started in modified specials, which were the old 34.
Mm-hmm.
I had 34 Chevy Coupe and 34 Chevy sedan that bounced back and forth. And Donnie had a 34 sedan that they had tried a Buick engine in and Chevys and all kinds of stuff like that, but really ran good. And Freddie had a really good car, and some of the tracks he ran a flathead because some of the short tracks the flathead really could beat the overhead.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a good competitor. We got to run against him. I think I can say pretty straightforward and fairly honestly that we finished in front of him most of the time.
Yes, indeed.
He did do some winning for sure.
Oh yeah,
and he remained a really good competitor.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Yeah, he would make his way to Texas, and he became a legend down here. And as you said, just a great competitor. As Bobby Allison joins us here on the Revved Up Sports Show, and again, what an honor, and thank you for the time, Bobby.
You bet.
Goes without saying. Need to ask you this Speed Weeks here for Daytona. We talked about the exciting race yesterday, but even more special for you all, a much deserved honor as Davey in the Hall of Fame with yourself. Let's talk about that. How amazing was that? It's just so incredible. Just the Allison name just lives on forever, and that had to be really special for you all.
Well, I was just so pleased when I got in. I got in right in that second class. I thought that was so special. So special for me, so special for the family, and just really was proud of that. But then they started talking about Davey, and I said, yes, by all means, Davey needs to be in there. In fact, I'll even mention this while we're talking. Donnie Allison needs to be in there too.
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
I agree.
Yeah. He had some good wins and good competitive racing for a lot of years. Yeah. But anyway, I was really happy about getting in the thing myself. But then when it came up and voted, Davey got voted in I just felt so good about it. It was so hard to describe how you can feel so proud and so happy about your son coming through and getting an honor like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, it's hard to follow up that question, but the question I have for you is hopefully you understand how. I guess it's more of a statement than a question, Bobby. I think that hopefully you understand how many people you had an effect on this sport, and that some of the races that I remember as a kid. The Daytona 500 with you and Davey, and then you just seeing some of the races that you got to do, and that main Intel car that was just a good looking piece. I just hope you realize and understand that you're so proud of Davey, but don't sell yourself short, because you were one of the greatest of all times, and you've had way more of an impact on this sport than what you might give yourself credit for.
Well, and I'm really pleased with that. I'm proud of it. I don't want to brag on myself on the thing.
No, please do.
Oh, you can.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't mind.
People have spoken very kindly to me about that whole situation, and I've enjoyed that.
Yeah, no doubt. So the burning question, I've been wanting to ask you this for a month. Well, there's actually a couple of them, but here, tell me. I know what the record book says. How many NASCAR Cup wins do you have?
85.
Yes, sir. That's what I thought. Yes, sir.
I won a race at Winston-Salem one night in Melvin Joseph's Mustang. And, the deal was it couldn't get full field for Grand National cars to go to the short tracks because the tracks were too tough on equipment and the purses weren't good enough and all that. And so they allowed the Grand American cars to fill the field. Well, what they didn't realize is, Tiny Lund had one that was really good. Jim Pascal had a Javelin that was really good. There were several of the Grand American cars could really compete on the short tracks. And I won it. I guess I won the, I think it might have been the second ever Grand American race that year. I'm not sure. But anyway, after I won that one, Tiny Lund won twice with his Camaro. And for a couple of years it counted, and then NASCAR dropped the two cars out of the win, but they didn't give the wins to anybody else. If you take a win away from a guy, the next guy should get the win.
Yeah.
And Richard Petty was second to me that night, and Richard Petty should have had 201.
201. Yes, sir.
But they didn't do that. And then Tiny got killed, and his widow went down and campaigned with Bill France Jr., and Bill France put Tiny's 2 wins back in, but not mine.
Yeah.
And so I've always counted it, and I've always put out as much information as I could toward anybody that could help me campaign to get that one to count.
Yeah. Well, we're on board.
Yeah,
I did win it. I got the money and the trophy, but did not get the credit.
Yeah, no, sounds like a win to me.
Now, Bobby, did you ever did you ever run in the Snowball Derby down in Pensacola, Florida? What's your recollection of racing down there?
I ran there. I ran that Snowball Derby lots and lots of times. And I came really close to in fact, what happened, I had won at Pensacola in a regular show. And I really liked the track. And so, the Snowball Derby was really the thing. And I cranked my stuff up and went down there. And ran really good, but had some kind of racing luck or whatever, did not win. Ran a lot of times and had some good finishes, but no win. Bobby Allison did win the Snowball Derby once. And so at least the family had a shot there. And it's a special event. The Snowball Derby was always a special event for us.
Yeah, and Donnie, the thing with Donnie is Donnie didn't run. I mean, he ran a lot of races, but he did not run near the races as many of you all did. But man, he won some good ones. I totally agree.
Yes, he did.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, see, he ran a couple hundred Grand National races and won 9, which, it's like a 4.5% win factor. And
good.
I won 85, and I ran so many races that doesn't come up to a 4.5% win.
No doubt about it.
Factor.
No doubt.
Yeah. So I have one question for you. This one's gonna, instead of thinking about the past, this one's speaking about the future. If Jim France knocks on the door there in Alabama and says, "You're a Hall of Famer, you won 85 times," what would you change about NASCAR and the Cup Series right now? If Jim France asked you that question, what would you say that you'd be changing in NASCAR if had the chance to say?
Well, there are a few things that I think I could really help with, but it has to be, in a private meeting with them. The one thing I would say that we ought to have Fords and Chevys and Toyotas instead of the car of tomorrow.
Yeah.
I feel like the car tomorrow was so much like the IROC, which was great racing, but the fans didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I think that they've suffered through that a little bit. Now, I'll tell you, with yesterday's race, I think that'll really give a big bump. Atlanta's coming up in a week, and I think Atlanta will get a real benefit out of that race being that good. They should have a really good crowd.
Yeah, I think so too. And finally, Bobby, we'll let you go. I know that and thank you again, because I know you were just getting back when I talked to you earlier. So thanks so much. I got to tell you, you were. So I've got a real quick Bobby Allison story for you. This was way back in the 80s at again Texas World Speedway. My dad and I were sitting at a kettle restaurant right there by one of the hotels, and you happened to walk in, and I'm not going to ask you if you remember this. I know you don't, but you happened to walk in, and I told my dad, I said, "That's Bobby Allison," and he said, "Yeah, sure is." And you walked by, and he said, "Hello, Bobby." And you said, "Hi, sir. How you doing? Hope you have a great day and enjoy the race." And you went and did whatever. But a lot of most popular driver awards for you, and I attribute it to just that story that I just told. How special is it for you that NASCAR fans have thought of you as just such a popular figure for so long?
Well, I really appreciate that too, for sure. To get spoken to, I'll be at the grocery store. I've even been in church and had somebody say, "Hey, Bobby, how are you? I saw you race." Well, I'll talk to you as soon as we get outside.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you definitely did, and that was like the highlight of my race day was like, and I asked my dad, I said, "You know Bobby Allison?" He said, "I don't know Bobby Allison, but I know he's a good man just because he stopped by." So many years later, thank you so much.
Yeah, no,
you bet.
I just got to say, like, Roddy and I, we talk about it all the time that in a lot of sports, they tell you not to meet your heroes or talk to your heroes because you're disappointed. But so far, so good with the racing heroes. We have not been disappointed, and tonight we are not disappointed. It's been an honor and a privilege to talk to you just for 30 minutes of your time. Talk to somebody of your racing talent and your racing caliber. It's just been really cool, and Roddy and I really appreciate it.
You bet.
Yes,
good. Fun talking with you guys, and thanks for calling.
You bet. It's been a blessing, sir. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
bye-bye.
Buddy. Yes, sir.